Welcome to Confessions of a Frustrated Game Master. I am Robert, the narrator, and thank you for joining me for this episode of Confessions. Well, this episode of Confessions, we're going to talk about the mystery of the missing option when it comes to conflict resolution in tabletop role-playing games. But before we jump into that, I just want to say we are still having a subscriber drive for the website for my tabletop role-playing game, Peace the RPG. If you go to peacetherpg.com, P-E-A-C-E, therepg.com, and subscribe, if we have 200 or more subscribers by June 1st, I'm sending every subscriber a quick start for the game, 7 pre-generated basic edition heroes, and a one-shot adventure. And when you pair that with the free 280-page basic edition that you can get from the website, you have a quick start kit for the game. Also, if we hit the 200 subscriber mark by June 1st, I'm going to pick 5 lucky subscribers to name, design, and create a magic item for the full edition of the game. So we are moving toward Quick Starter. We're trying to build up excitement and trying to complete this journey to bring Peace the RPG to life. So please go to the website, peacetherpg.com, subscribe, and it's been amazing thus far. We're trying to keep the excitement going. So on to the episode, the mystery of the missing third option when it comes to resolving conflicts in tabletop role-playing games. So what do I mean by that? So many years ago, around the development of 5th edition, a lead designer of 5th edition talked about the idea of categorizing the activities or pillars of activities in tabletop role-playing games. And those 3 pillars or activities were combat, interaction, and exploration. And for me, all of those really made sense as how you can neatly divide and categorize and break down the main activities that player characters will engage in when it comes to tabletop role-playing games. So it's really neat. I really like those definitions. But something that I realized over the last few years is that neat categorization is not perfect. I guess nothing is perfect, but it is not perfect, because I noticed the missing third option when it came to conflict resolution in tabletop role-playing games. Now, I like to play face characters in tabletop role-playing games. I like playing bards in fantasy games. I like playing fixers in science fiction games. I like characters who use their charisma, their influence, the force of their personality to get things done in tabletop role-playing games. And a lot of games support mechanics for those types of characters. So for example, in fantasy game, the bard can inspire his or her fellow companions, give them additional roles or healing. In science fiction games, the fixer usually has narrative abilities that they can use outside of conflicts. They have easy access to contacts and so forth. But something that made me say that that neat categorization of activities in tabletop role-playing games is not perfect is because what I noticed over the last several years is that almost no role-playing game allows the face type character to continue to do what they are good at generally when the conflict becomes violent. Essentially, the fixer's ability to get contacts doesn't matter, and the bard may have a couple of spells or may be able to heal, but that's basically where his abilities end as well. Essentially, during a conflict, those face characters have to resort to being inferior fighters or magic users when steel is drawn. And for me, that doesn't seem balanced against what the fighter can do or the wizard can do when a conflict becomes violent. Sure, a fixer in a sci-fi game has access to more contacts, but the penalty he has to pay for that of having to resort to being the inferior version of another character class or archetype really doesn't balance out the fact that, hey, he can have access to more contacts. So I've always thought to myself about this missing third option in conflicts. If you're talking about fantasy, the two options are you can throat punch the enemy or you can fireball the enemy. But I have yet to play a role-playing game that gives you the option to use the force of your personality during a conflict. So you're telling me that during a conflict, I can't frighten an enemy out of the fight? I can't befriend them if the circumstances are correct, or I can't taunt them to cause them to become enraged and become very ineffectual in combat. Now, games do have taunt and persuasion rules, but as far as how detailed they are compared to combat rules, generally what taunt and persuasion rules come down to is making a roll and the game master making an arbitrary decision. It is far from as detailed, as tactical, and as effective and as non-arbitrary as taking your sword and cutting down an enemy. So I have always wondered why this third option was missing from tabletop role-playing games. Now, I am not naive, and I know that a lot of players out there don't play tabletop role-playing games to do interactions and use charisma and have conversations. They want to pull their sword or their firearm, in the case of science fiction, and get into the action and defeat the enemy and look like the heroes. But there are players out there like myself who enjoy playing face characters, characters who make their living or who survive off of the force of their personality. And I, in the 30 years that I have been playing, have never seen a role-playing game that had mechanics that supported that style of play as much as combat is supported in every role-playing game that I have ever played. So I think that my game Peace's unique superpower is that it allows players to explore that third mystery option that is not really an option in other tabletop role-playing games. Essentially, Peace treats a character's influence, their charisma, just like any other character's ability to do warfare or magic. And I think having more options, as long as they are understandable and they flow with the rest of the game, is only a good thing. And again, I can only assume that other role-playing games don't make charisma a viable option for resolving conflicts or being effective in conflicts. It's probably because they figure, hey, that's not what the players want to do. They want to kill things and take their stuff. So frightening an enemy away or taunting an enemy until they become enraged and become very ineffectual in combat really isn't something that they think that players would have fun with. But I'm going to tell you, I like to have options for conflict resolution when I'm playing a role-playing game beyond throat punching and fireballing. How about you? Do you like the idea of having that missing third option to deal with conflicts? If using your force of personality to befriend, frighten, or taunt a foe could be as effective as chopping them down with a battle axe or fireballing them out of existence, would you like to have that option? Let me know in the description below. Also, let me know, do you think there are any other reasons why other role-playing games don't make a character's charisma as an effective option for resolving conflicts as physical combat or casting spells? And if you like the idea, finally, of having a system that gives face characters the option to shine even when steel is drawn, you can check out my tabletop role-playing game, TTRPG. In the description below is the link so that you can download the basic edition rules for the game. Thank you very much for checking out this video, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you are watching this video. Talk to you later.